J. Trump.
4 years ago, Donald Trump defied the polls and surprised the world. Now, the voters will pass judgment on what has been one of the most turbulent and unpredictable presidencies America has ever seen.
Together, we will make America great again. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
America faces a decisive choice. If he's reelected and has another 4 years, incalculable and perhaps irreversible damage will be done to American democracy and how America operates and what it stands for in this world. So really everything is at stake for the future of the country.
With just over a week to go, the polls suggest Trump is behind and is set to lose the election.
This is what a lopsided election looks like. Big leads in all the swing states. But this is all set against the legacy of 2016 and how wrong the polls were then and the unpredictability that is Donald Trump.
I think he's got a decent chance, but I would be being dishonest if I didn't tell you I was a little nervous. Every once in a while I got to take a little nip to calm my nerves, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
We will make America great again.
The president really, he needs every state he won before, and that's looking less and less likely. He needs every vote that he got before, and he's lost some of those already.
A victim himself of a pandemic still raging out of control, an economy in crisis, and the United States more divided than ever. Enough, you would think, to guarantee electoral defeat. But Donald Trump has continually defied the traditions and expectations of politics. Tonight on Four Corners, where has Trump's chaotic leadership left America? And could this really be the end of his presidency? In US politics, they call these unexpected and wild card events in the last month of a campaign the October surprise. And few have been as surprising as this.
The President of the United States and the First Lady have both tested positive for the coronavirus.
Throughout this extraordinary election year, no issue has had more of an impact on US politics than the pandemic. More than 200,000 deaths, more than 8 million Americans infected. It was the issue Donald Trump wanted to continue to downplay. But his own diagnosis ensured COVID would be the dominant theme of the last months of the campaign.
I just left Walter Reed Medical Center, and it's really something very special. The doctors, the nurses, the first responders, and I learned so much about coronavirus. And one thing that's for certain, don't let it dominate you. Don't be afraid of it.
I could never envision a horror show like this. This has been a nightmare. And it just goes from bad to worse. So it wasn't only not disclosing what he knew and not giving the appropriate warning and this ridiculous excuse of playing it down. He thought the pandemic could interfere with his re-election. And that was more important than the health of the American people. So it's very clear what has happened here. And this country is in a mess.
We are in a situation in America where children can't go to school, people aren't going to work, and there's no unified national strategy, there never has been, to address it. He's never had an empathetic approach to the loss of life.
President Trump approaches most issues as to what does it mean for me, at least as much as what it means for the American people. And for him, COVID was a direct, imminent, and possibly crippling threat to his presidency and what he wanted to accomplish. And it absolutely threatened the economy. And I think he consistently minimized the threat in order to preserve as much of his record going into this election year as possible.
Now, COVID poses the biggest threat to one of this president's strongest group of supporters.
Right. I think that if you look across the country, we are getting to a point where, things are opening. We've still got huge problems. We've still got between 750 and 1,000 people a day in America dying. It's like 2 747s going down every single day. It is, more people, every day or two than died on 9/11. This is a huge issue, and I think particularly for the elderly and others.
Trump carried seniors by a substantial margin. Biden is carrying seniors today. And yes, the issue is, did tens of thousands of Americans, tens of thousands, die unnecessarily because there was not an effective COVID strategy? And the answer to that question is yes.
For Trump, Florida is a must-win state. It also has one of the oldest demographics in America. In presidential elections, it's always close. Due to COVID, Trump could be in trouble here.
It's a very diverse state, from the Florida Panhandle as almost the Deep South, all the way through to cosmopolitan Miami. That's this mix of Cuban Americans. You've got retirees up Palm Beach and Fort Lauderdale. You've got a religious Bible Belt in the middle of the state around Orlando. It's a crazy diverse state, and hence a great barometer for what's happening in the rest of the country.
No Republican has won the presidency without winning Florida in a century. Victory in Florida delivers a significant number of the Electoral College votes needed to win the election. It will be vital for Donald Trump.
Almost all the cards have to come out the right way, and a little misstep in any one of them can see that come undone pretty quickly, and a big one would be Florida. If that card doesn't drop for Trump, then almost everything else has to go right.
The Villages is America's largest retirement community. $130,000 people and growing faster than anywhere in the US.
It's a little slice of paradise. Sunshine and golf galore. The Villages.
Welcome to Florida's friendliest hometown, The Villages.
I didn't have much time to take naps.
I don't think we've ever taken a nap. We've talked about it.
And then we start happy hour. And the next day, we start all over again.
The Villages has consistently been a Republican stronghold and helped swing the state for Trump in 2016.
Welcome to The Villages.
I think the importance of an area like the Villages is really exemplified by the fact that we've had the vice president here on 2 occasions. We've had just about every major candidate over the years here. We've had the president here. I think they understand the importance not only of our demographic, they also understand that we go out and vote.
The Villages even has its own Trump Club. Tonight, they're holding a dinner in the president's honour.
I'm here to support President Trump for his re-election campaign for 2020. And today's Trump Day in the Villages. So this is, I think it's our 3rd annual dinner since his election in 2016.
I see really big American ratings. Appreciate that.
Republicans know how important this demographic is. And campaigners for Trump, like Chris Sprowls, are taking nothing for granted.
So we go down there and we meet the president.
The Villages has been wildly supportive of the president. It's important that they turn out in big number to support him. I know that they're going to, because you can feel the energy tonight of the group of folks here.
We're sitting right here. The president gives a 2-hour speech.
In this room, Chris Sprowls is preaching to the choir.
I was walking into the parking lot, Pastor, I saw a nice bumper sticker that said, "Jesus is essential."
He loves God, he loves this country, and he loves us, and he fights for us, and he fights for liberty, and he supports the U.S. Constitution, which so many people like myself have fought for, and unlike me, have died for. They paid a dear price for our freedoms that so many people take for granted. Donald John Trump understands that, he gets that, and he fights for us.
Yeah, go Trump. 4 more years, let's hear it.
After months of the president downplaying the COVID threat, tonight, no one here is wearing a mask.
Where would we have been if the president would have stood up and says, this is the worst thing that could have happened, everybody run and hide? You know, he tried to put it in its proper perspective. All in all, I think when we come through all this and we look back, hindsight will say, all things being considered, he did a pretty good job.
Okay, so we have yard signs too, if you want one of those. There's no price. Really?
Not everyone sees it that way.
We'll give you this.
There's no doubt Trump's handling of the pandemic is a political issue here.
So let me sign you in. We're doing this for COVID tracing.
He's never considered a big problem, which is an issue here. It could have been back to normal way before now if he had done what he needed to do, but he did not. He didn't shut things down. He didn't have people wear masks. He didn't put out the PPE. He just didn't do the stuff he needed to do.
You live in the Villages, right?
We do.
Okay.
On the other side of the fairway, Shelley Placito and her friends at the Villages Democratic Club are doing everything they can to prevent Trump taking Florida in 2020.
Good morning.
Hi.
How are you?
I just found you by accident.
Good.
I am registered to vote.
Okay.
And I have my registration card.
Uh-huh.
The question is, I can't remember if I requested a mail-in ballot or not.
Okay.
You know, this is a community of primarily over 55. I think the average age is 72. The Villages is the prime target for COVID to do some real damage.
Chris Stanley is the president of the club. She retired here to the warmer weather 6 years ago and says Trump has caused division in the Villages.
It's always been a really political place. It's always been a very Republican place. But we were able to coexist pretty peacefully. We don't anymore, particularly not in the last several months. If you're in a Republican golf game and you come out with, I'm not supporting Trump, you may lose your golf game. You'll lose your social group. Your spouse will lose their social group and golf game. You won't be invited to the neighborhood party. Things are tense here.
In this manufactured utopia for older Americans, divisions run deep. When Trump supporters held a golf cart rally to celebrate the president's birthday, tempers flared.
Fuck Trump! Fuck Trump! Nasty language. Oh, listen to your president if you want nasty language.
White power! White power! There you go, white power!
The guy in the golf cart is shouting white power. And that, in my life, is probably the most horrific thing I've ever seen. It was awful. And it took days before anybody in the Villages for Trump Club or the Republican Club to disavow it. It took days. It was horrible. And it brought us the kind of attention that nobody wants.
Donald Trump amplified the conflict when he retweeted the footage.
The Democrats who live here are very motivated to get rid of President Trump, very motivated, as well as the independents and no-party affiliates, the one that choose not to pick a party. People really want to see him go. So we are banking on our enthusiasm, mitigating the damage of the Republicans here in this area so the Democrats in other parts of the state can pick it up and we can get him out of office.
He knows he's in trouble here, but Trump isn't giving up without a fight. Just days after he was released from hospital, he flew to the airport closest to the Villages, pumped and full of COVID defiance.
One thing with me, the nice part, I went through it. Now they say I'm immune. I feel so powerful. I'll walk into that audience. I'll walk in there. I'll kiss everyone in that audience. I'll kiss the guys and the beautiful women and everybody. I'll just give you a big fat kiss. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Florida. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Current polling suggests COVID has damaged Trump's chances in Florida. It is still close, but Biden is narrowly leading.
Because they have a large retirement community, people aged 65 and over, and that cohort, according to the polls, are now favoring Biden because they feel a bit abandoned by this president in his response to or lack of response to COVID-19, because that's the most vulnerable group. So it'll be very interesting to see how Florida plays out.
Scientists say Trump's leadership has failed America. Dr. Topol is one of the country's leading cardiac specialists.
Well, what's happened is that we have a president who's anti-science, who knew that this was transmitted through the air, aerosol, in January and early February, and that it was fatal at a order of magnitude more than seasonal flu, didn't tell the American people. And throughout the entire pandemic has done everything possible to mismanage it, serving as a negative role model, to not wear masks, not distance, have big rallies, be a super spreader, you name it. It's unimaginable how many bad things can be done by a leader of a country.
Another crucial battleground for Trump runs through what are known as the Rust Belt states: Michigan, Wisconsin and Pennsylvania. The once mighty industrial heartland of the Midwest, depressed by decades of manufacturing decline. In 2016, these states swung to Trump. If Democrats can win them back, the Trump presidency is finished.
It's the team that's going to paint Pennsylvania red.
Yes. How are you?
Here in central Pennsylvania, grassroots Republicans are working hard for Donald Trump. At the Republican Women of Luzerne County Picnic Day, enthusiasm for the president still runs high.
I know they say it every election, but this really is the biggest election of our time. And so to make sure that President Trump is sitting there in January is probably one of the biggest things we can do between now and November 3rd.
Trump narrowly won those three states: Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. Across those three states, Trump's winning margin was less than 78,000 votes in total. Razor-thin margins in all three. So a little bit of swing back in each of those states delivers those three states, all states that Obama won in 8 and in 12. And of those three, just even on their own, were enough to come back. Biden wins if the rest of the map stays the same. So Biden begins in a pretty good place because Clinton lost so narrowly. Trump, on the other hand, is almost surely going to lose the national popular vote. And if he's going to win, it's going to be the same way he won in 2016, and that is by threading the needle of the Electoral College, winning states very efficiently, translating what is actually a pretty low, in relative terms, base of support into wins in just enough states to get there.
Trump got there last time on the promise of bringing back industry. The Make America Great Again catch cry was a powerful message for people like Debbie Barbose.
No, because they're going to ship the parts, and Mike will have to look them up anyway, so yeah.
I feel President Trump can help the economy because he's a businessman. He's run businesses.
Mom.
He knows to run the country as a business. I feel Biden is more a feelings president than an economics president.
When she's not organising Republican picnics, Debbie Barbose runs a machine tooling plant that makes parts for military equipment.
Okay.
Under Trump, her business is doing well.
Make the extra one.
He promised to bring manufacturing back to PA. Since he's been elected, we have 16,000 new manufacturing jobs in the area. The military, he increased spending with that. One industry close to us does military work. When he first took office, he increased the military budget by $760 million, and our workload increased 30%.
But not everyone is seeing an economic recovery. Most of the old industries are still struggling, and the Trump presidency has failed to deliver for many ordinary workers. Unemployment in Pennsylvania is over 10%, and COVID has smashed the economy.
The polls always showed that Trump had a higher approval rating on the economy than almost anything else. He did believe, and with justification for his base, in America standing up, pro-manufacturing jobs, build it in America, take on international institutions that threaten American competitiveness, take on the World Trade Organization. But yes, he did have a terrific economic record going into this campaign. But the problem is that most people in the United States are one step away from economic catastrophe. And guess what? COVID is the catastrophe.
Scranton is one of those Pennsylvania communities struggling with the tough economy. Almost 78 years ago, Joe Biden was born here into a working-class family. Humble origins that he cites often on the campaign trail to contrast with Donald Trump's more privileged New York upbringing.
Well, I couldn't come to Scranton without coming by the old house. Next time, hopefully without a mask, okay? What's his name? Bennett. Hey, Bennett, how are you?
Obama carried Pennsylvania twice with Biden on the ticket, and Biden has done a couple of things. He always mentions Scranton when he's in Pennsylvania, and he goes to Scranton when he can.
The working class town of all working class towns, it's emblematic of what it means to have working class roots, to say you come from Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Chris Patrick is the chairman of the local Democratic Committee. He's convinced that voters here believe Trump has overpromised and underdelivered on the economy, and the state will swing back to the Democrats this time.
Morning. Trump made a lot of promises that he couldn't keep. You know, he would rejuvenate the coal industry. Well, that hasn't happened because, you know, people are getting away from fossil fuels. I'll have the ham, egg, and cheese breakfast sandwich.
Sure. What would you like that on? Croissants, a roll, or an English muffin?
A roll.
On a roll?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it
That's
is.
it. To win back Pennsylvania, we're in a battle. There's no denying we're in a battle. However, I feel that the people in Pennsylvania will vote for their native son, Joe Biden. It was a different election. This is a different election than it was in 2016. I think people trust Joe Biden. I think people could relate to Joe Biden.
There are 3 major highways that run through Scranton. For political operators like Chris Patrick, that makes this a good distribution point.
This is our Lackawanna County Democratic Committee headquarters. So everything's happening out of here. These are postcards that are being handwritten with a message from Joe Biden on one side, and we're sending out 35,000 of these to registered voters in Lackawanna County.
The Republican Party under Trump had successfully broadened its appeal to disaffected white voters.
Contrary to what the media has to say, we're doing a good job.
For many of these people, it has become the Trump Party.
Donald Trump has had a big impact on the party. When Donald Trump is off the scene, other people will have a big impact on the party. But I think the key thing is when I travel around our country, what I see is a lot of what we call the forgotten men and women, a lot of blue-collar people who have to keep track of their hours in order to figure out what their wages are. They might get paid by the hour. But it's a lot of working class people that are now attracted to the party.
Matt Schlapp is a committed Trump Republican, a long-time Conservative operative. His wife works on the Trump campaign. And the two of them are considered among Washington's most prominent Trump supporters.
You know, I have yard signs, and my wife and I are very public in our support. Even voters who might not like everything about Trump will, in the end, vote for him because they know, number one, he'll take on the establishment, and number two, he did a good job of bringing the economy back before, and he can do it again.
He can't really change. But there's a growing anti-Trump movement within Republican ranks.
Republican Party is certainly not the party of Ronald Reagan or George H.W. Bush. You know, Ronald Reagan used to get criticized for being the 9-to-5 president. But boy, he kept regular hours. We were organized as a result of it, and it wasn't that he wasn't working after 5 o'clock or before 9 a.m., but he was over in the Oval Office from 9 to 5. And there was a rhythm and a certainty about how things operated. There's no certainty in this White House. I can't imagine trying to work in this White House.
Kim Hoggard served at the highest levels in both the Reagan and Bush administrations. Now based in Sydney, she's just one of many Republicans alarmed by Trump.
All these numerous Republican groups that have formed to not only attract disaffected Republicans, but to fundraise directly for Joe Biden. It's absolutely unprecedented and unusual. But it does reflect a party that has lost touch and has not been able to widen its base, has not been able to attract younger voters or voters of diverse background. And it's been an endemic problem in the Republican Party.
The most deceptive, lying president in history finally told the truth.
Some Republicans are so committed to bringing Trump down, they've started releasing online attack videos.
When you do testing to that extent, you're going to find more people, you're going to find more cases. So I said to my people, slow the testing down, please.
That's why this November,
the most impactful of these groups calls itself the Lincoln Project.
It's America.
Reed Galen is one of the founders.
Or Trump.
A lot of us have spent decades, if not our entire careers, in Republican politics. I left the GOP in 2016 after Donald Trump won the nomination. But from our perspective, he was never a conservative. He's certainly not a Republican. And now he's an existential threat to the country.
Something's wrong with Donald Trump. He's shaky, weak, trouble speaking, trouble walking. So why aren't we talking about this?
This group of Republican rebels has attracted tens of millions of dollars to fund their campaign.
So, we have several different kinds of ads we run. The ones that get the most attention are the ones that take President Trump and his family and his collection of goons around him to task.
Trump is not well.
Obama had to say first 2 years. That's right.
Pro-Trump Republicans like Matt Schlapp dismiss the anti-Trumpers as embittered elitists.
The real question in this campaign isn't what a bunch of wealthy consultants believe about Donald Trump. The real question in this campaign is, what do working people feel in Pennsylvania, in Wisconsin, in Michigan, in Florida, in North Carolina, in Nevada, in Arizona? What do they think about him? What African Americans think about him?
In 2020, Wisconsin is another must-win state for both sides. Donald Trump unexpectedly won here in 2016 by less than 1%. It's a battle that will be fought in the working-class white suburbs of one of the most segregated states in America.
I think this election is going to probably be won or lost in the suburbs with women, with white women. I think that's going to be a big piece of whether Joe Biden is successful. It is why President Trump is working so hard to scare those suburbs, saying, you better watch out. In his advertising, literally, people are coming in. They're going to destroy your suburbs. They're going to destroy your way of living.
Donald Trump would love this election to be about anything other than COVID. And so Black Lives Matter and the protests that come on the back of the George Floyd death get transformed from being an issue about racial justice to an issue about law and order, a frame that works better for him and his base.
The riots in Kenosha, a small city here in Wisconsin, have undoubtedly helped Trump amplify that message. They were sparked by the shooting of yet another black man by police. The shooting of Jacob Blake brought hundreds of protesters onto the streets.
Our nephew was shot 7 times in the back. Nothing can justify that. He had no weapon, and he's paralyzed right now in the hospital. And our family is thanking everybody around the world. Little Jake is everybody's little Jake. Conversations that African-American families have to have with their loved ones before they walk out the door tells you it's just not a rogue cop, but a systemic racism that we're talking about.
Days of rioting and looting followed, destroying parts of the town. Many businesses were torched or defaced. Small groups of armed militia joined the fray, one of whom was 17-year-old Kyle Rittenhouse, who shot and killed 2 protesters. Donald Trump pointedly refused to denounce the shooting.
We're looking at all of it. That was an interesting situation. You saw the same tape as I saw, and he was trying to get away from them, I guess, it looks like, and he fell, and then they very violently attacked him, and it was something that we're looking at right now, and it's under investigation, but I guess he was in very big trouble. He would have been. He probably would have been killed, but it's under investigation.
Pat and Eric Ertl have run their computer business here for 30 years. It was trashed in the unrest.
Walking in glass, you can't describe the feeling. And especially at our age, we're in our 70s. Knowing that we've got to start over again? All these years of work and making this place what it was, and now we have to start over?
We were the only thing standing, and everything else was burned down. Ours was completely destroyed, but it wasn't burned. When something like this happens, a tragedy like this, instead of improving that tolerance, it shifts it the other way. I have a fear now.
The community came down and
painted everything.
Painted. Artists from all over the community came to...
They painted some things we didn't like, and we had them painted over again.
What did they paint that you didn't like?
Black Lives Matter. Because like I said, if you want to put every life matters.
That's one thing, but yeah. But to me, BLM is a terrorist organization.
Since the riots, smaller protests have become a weekly occurrence. Portia Bennett is one of those leading this march. She says the racial tension in Kenosha has intensified.
We ready. We ready. It's horrible, very horrible. You got people who are more open now. Businesses that we have spent money at who are literally posting racial stuff against black people, and it's just ridiculous. A part of me is happy about it, though, because now we see you for who you really are. As we say, the sheets are off the heads at that point. I hate that I have to do it. I never thought in a million years I would have to walk around with a gun on me. I never thought I would have to do something like that. I don't like it, but I know I have to.
Frank Nitti is a Black Lives Matter activist from nearby Milwaukee. In August, he led a 25-day protest march from Wisconsin to Washington, D.C. Along the way, he came face-to-face with an America which is still deeply racist, a schism fueled and encouraged by the president.
When we walked through Indiana, everyone that was calling us nigger, everyone saying get the fuck out of the street, fuck you niggers, go fucking home, get out of our fucking community, and all the stuff that they called us, they didn't have Confederate flags. A few of them did. They had pickup trucks, Confederate flags, and like a Trump 2020 hat or a Trump 2020 poster. No one had suits. We didn't see any white suits, any pointy hats. We never saw those people. Everyone that antagonized us had Trump 2020 posters. And they truly believe that Trump is supporting that. Even if it's just rhetoric, even if he doesn't, he hasn't clearly told them that as a president, you know what? I don't support the individuals that look at me this way, or I don't support anyone that does that.
It's difficult to watch what's going on in the United States now because we can see that so much hasn't been achieved in America that should have been achieved a long time ago around racial injustice and police brutality. And we've had a president who's exacerbated it by not addressing it, by not trying to calm people down, by not trying to bring together people, not sitting down and speaking to police departments, police chiefs, or activists to find a way forward. To acknowledge that there are issues that need to be addressed.
The people understand, Joe. 47 years, you've done nothing.
Trump's aggressive, confrontational approach was on full display when the candidates met for their first televised debate.
Let people know you're a senator. I'm not going to answer the question because the question is
radical left.
Will you shut up, man?
Listen, who is on your list, Joe? Who's on your list?
Right.
Gentlemen, I think we've ended this.
He's going to pack the court.
His failure to condemn right-wing extremists alarmed many viewers.
Are you willing tonight to condemn white supremacists and militia groups and to say that they need to stand down and not add to the violence in a number of these cities, as we saw in Kenosha and as we've seen in Portland?
Sure,
are you
I'm
prepared
to
specifically
do it?
Well, go ahead, sir.
I would say almost everything I see is from the left wing, not from the right wing.
So what are you saying?
I'm willing to do anything. I want to see peace.
Then do it, sir.
Say it. Do it. Say it.
Do you want to call him? What do you want to call him? Give me a name. Give me a
white
name.
Supremacists and
white like me to condemn?
White supremacists and right
Proud Boys. Stand back and stand by. But I'll tell you what. Somebody's got to do something about Antifa and the left, because this is not a right-wing problem. This is a left-wing. This is a left-wing problem.
White supremacist.
This has been viewed as a pivotal moment. At a point in the campaign where Trump needed to broaden his appeal, he instead doubled down with a message to his base. Since then, his support has slipped even more.
I hope it's going to be a fair election.
I look at that debate performance and I wonder what was going on, what was the strategy in there? If you understand that those are the votes that are going to decide this election, or are quite likely to, what about that debate performance appealed to them? It was a base performance. And Donald Trump is very good, in fact, almost historically great at revving up the base. But his approval numbers have been so stable, it reveals how stubborn his support base is, number one, but how unable he has been to grow it over the course of his presidency.
To stand up there as the president, as the commander-in-chief, as a leader of the country, to not be able to condemn white supremacy and prejudice. And I'm very disappointed that that moment has occurred in America on national television at a presidential debate. It's shameful behavior.
See you, pal. Thanks a million. Thank you. Good deal.
If you can believe the polls, Joe Biden is heading for a landslide victory.
He said so many things that aren't true.
Even Trump's supporters are worried.
I think he's got a decent chance, but I would be being dishonest if I didn't tell you I was a little nervous. Every once in a while, I got to take a little nip to calm my nerves, and I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And by the way, Donald Trump, he's so aggressive that you never know what's going to happen in 24 hours. The news shifts here so dramatically.
Please welcome the 45th President of the United States.
Hello, Prescott. I better speak fast. This sun is hot. Think I'm doing this for my health?
Having recovered from COVID, Trump has spent the past few weeks barnstorming the country with his signature rallies.
COVID, pandemic, COVID.
And seasoned Democrat campaigners are not writing him off yet.
We win Wisconsin. We win the whole ball game.
Donald Trump is someone who knows no guardrails, who is willing to do and say anything, has said tens of thousands of lies. And so all of those conventional things that you do in a campaign where at least you expect some degree of safety because there are norms of behavior and there are limits to what one would do, are all off the table when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump.
Get out and vote. Do those beautiful absentee ballots or...
For months, Trump has been suggesting the vote could be rigged and questioning the validity of the postal vote system.
As if the election is rigged. Remember that.
In a year when COVID is expected to see a huge increase in people casting their vote with mail-in ballots.
Mr. President, will you commit to making sure that there is a peaceful transferal of power after the election?
Well, we're going to have to see what happens. You know that I've been complaining very strongly about the ballots, and the ballots are a disaster.
I understand that, but people are rioting. Do you commit to making sure that there's a peaceful transferal of power?
We want to get rid of the ballots, and we'll have a very peaceful. There won't be a transfer, frankly. There'll be a continuation. The ballots.
Never before we heard a president so delegitimize the most trusted democratic election system in the world, and to already declare that the election is rigged if he doesn't win, and to devalue the legitimacy of mail-in ballots themselves.
I have full confidence that if Donald Trump loses this race fair and square, and it's very apparent election night, he will back out of the presidency at the appointed time and allow Joe Biden to come in and take over the constitutional mantle of government. I have no doubt of that already at all. But if there are a lot of irregularities, I think he should fight it.
"4 years of the Trump presidency has left America reeling. It's more divided and fractious than ever. The COVID epidemic is still ripping through the country, and the economic costs will be a burden for a generation. Whatever happens on November the 3rd, this country will take a long time to heal.
It has to start with just us turning down the temperature. We can't have the chaos. We can't have the tweets. We can't have the pitting one against the other as a political strategy that is executed every day out of the White House briefing room, out of the White House Rose Garden. You got to start there and then hope as time goes on, and it won't be immediate, that people can get to a place where we can talk again.
He's left a ballooning debt and deficit. He's left a hollowed-out government with positions unfilled, a diplomatic corps that's lost morale, an intelligence agency that has been torn apart with how it can advise the president. He's left a wake of destruction behind him. That is his legacy.